Here with us now is Jay Rothman, the president of Universities of Wisconsin. Appreciate you taking some time to be with us.
My pleasure. Great to be with you, Sarah.
So, how will this workforce plan encourage graduates to remain in Wisconsin's workforce?
I think we've got a great track record of our in-state students who come to our universities. After 5 years post-graduation, they're still in the state. So 90% of them are still in the state of Wisconsin 5 years post-graduation. So I think we've got a strong track record of that. I think the workforce development plan that will be submitted to the Joint Finance Committee will help that, because you build critical masses of nurses and engineers and data scientists and computer scientists and business people. You see the expansion in Wisconsin, which this proposal is intended to drive. And you see economic growth that will keep people in the state.
And how did the system choose the industry sectors that it did for this plan to target?
We did a fair amount of statistical analysis and looked at where the greatest needs were for the state of Wisconsin, and we identified those 4 areas. One is nursing and healthcare, the second is engineering, the third is business and finance, and the fourth is data and computer science. All of which we are not graduating enough students right now to fill the jobs that are expected to be created in the future. And this plan is intended to help address that workforce shortage in the future.
House Speaker Robin Vos said this in response to the plan announcement. He said, quote, "It looks like a good proposal. Once we work out an agreement on DEI, we'd be happy to move forward." So with that in mind, how can this workforce plan convince lawmakers on the Finance Committee to move forward with it when the most powerful Republican in the legislature is already saying that he'll put the brakes on it unless there's a DEI agreement?
We've taken the legislature at its word. When the budget was adopted, the supplemental appropriation was created. They said it was focused on workforce. In fact, they had a press conference immediately following the budget passage and talked about the war for talent, which is what I've been talking about since I've been in my job, and about this money being set aside for workforce development. We're taking them at their word, and that's what we're doing, and we have submitted a proposal which I believe is compelling in terms of the workforce investments that can be made and what we can generate from that. And I've been pleased. I'm pleased that the Speaker thinks it's a good plan. Senator Mark Line has indicated that he thinks it's got a good plan. I agree with him.
But you got to look at that piece there. Once we work out an agreement on DEI, do you think it's reasonable to come out and hinge the plan almost at this point on DEI?
And again, I come back and I say we're taking the legislature at their word. They said this was focused on workforce development, and I think everyone in the state of Wisconsin can look at this and say this is good for our state. We need more nurses. Think about what healthcare is going to be in 5 and 10 and 15 years if we're not graduating more nurses. Think about if we're not graduating more engineers. Wisconsin has a great history of being a fantastic manufacturing state, but you need engineers to design the products that are going to be manufactured in this state. Graduating more engineers is important. You think about the business and finance people will help manage those businesses as the economy grows in the state. And you look at data and computer science, and you can't look at AI about the impact it's going to have on our economy moving forward. We need graduates in those roles. And again, we're taking the legislature at their word. They said this is about workforce. This is about exactly what we put on the table, is all about workforce.
So you mentioned that Republicans in public, in the press, have said they are, accepting of this plan. Have you had any meetings, or do you plan to have any meetings, for instance, with Speaker Vos about this plan or DEI?
Yeah, we're continuing. I'm continuing my discussions with the Speaker. I'm continuing my discussions with the legislature generally, because I think at the end of the day, we are all focused. The mission of the Universities of Wisconsin is to serve the state of Wisconsin, consistent with the Wisconsin idea, touching all corners of the state. That's what we're focused on. I believe that the legislators want to do what's right for the state as well. And I continue to believe that plans like the $32 million workforce development plan that we've got in place is important to that. In the same way that building an engineering building in Madison is important long-term to workforce development, economic prosperity of the state.
And have you felt like the discussions that you've had with Speaker Vos, have they been personal discussions, and how do you feel those have been going?
I've got a very cordial relationship with the Speaker. He and I have exchanged views. But I think this is broader than that. This is broader. This is about the economic viability of the state. What are we going to do to invest? Because the investments we make today or we do not make will define Wisconsin's long-term economic success. This is a critical juncture. Are we going to invest in our universities? Are we going to invest in the greatest talent magnet the state has and talent developer that the state has, or are we not? Because 5, 10, and 15 years from now, we will see the ramifications of whatever decisions that are made today.
Let's talk a little bit more about investment into universities of Wisconsin. Just over a week ago, the governor announced he was suing the Republican-controlled legislature, partly, because of a move by a Republican-controlled committee to withhold pay raises for UW staff. What is your confidence level on that lawsuit being successful?
I've been clear about our view of the pay plan, and that pay plan was approved by the legislature, signed into law by the governor, and I think the pay is now being withheld. It's being withheld from custodians. It's being withheld from food service workers. It's being held from administrative assistants and people throughout our universities. These are people who have rent payments to make, mortgage payments to make. They have to clothe and feed their kids. They've got to live life. And they're doing that in the context of an inflationary environment. Withholding a pay plan that's been approved by the legislature and enacted into law by the governor, in my judgment, is both unfair and it's wrong.
Are you hopeful that this lawsuit could be the cornerstone to getting that pay plan back into action?
Again, I'm hopeful that our employees get the pay plan. However that happens, they deserve it. And again, it's been approved by the legislature, enacted into law by the governor. That money is being withheld right now, and that's wrong.
And in the meantime, what are you doing to advocate on behalf of employees to get that approved?
Yeah, we are continuing to have conversations with legislators. I've been embarked on an opportunity tour. I visited 8 of our universities over the last couple of weeks, talking to the business community, talking to civic leaders about the importance of each of those individual universities within the state. And I think back, having grown up in this state and been a resident of Wisconsin my entire life, how important the universities of Wisconsin are to the social fabric, the economic fabric, the vitality of the state of Wisconsin. I've always asked myself this question: what would Wisconsin look like without those universities? It would be a drastically different place. It is now our time, it is our opportunity to invest in something that has made Wisconsin great.
Another hurdle for this system has been that $347 million engineering building project. It was not included in the budget. Business leaders recently took out that full-page ad in the State Journal. It was funded by the Wisconsin Alumni Association. With this new ad, do you think system leaders could have done a better job to convince lawmakers from the out that it was a valuable project before business leaders needed to get involved?
I mean, I think you always want the support of the business community because they are the ones who are going to be hiring our graduates, our engineers. But I look at the engineering building and I believe its funding, it really is a no-brainer. Nearly half of the dollars have already been raised privately, so it's reducing the cost to the state. Secondly, it would produce 1,000 new graduates in engineering that we're not going to be able to produce without it. And third is, it would house world-class engineering research that, quite frankly, is impeded by current space. All of those factors together, that leads to economic viability in the state. It was certainly a top priority for us when we went into our budget that we submitted to the governor. It came out and it went to the legislature that way. I think we've made the case time and time again about why that engineering building is important and why it should be funded. And again, I really do believe that is a no-brainer if you're looking at the long-term economic viability of Wisconsin.
And why do you think lawmakers then did not respond to what you believe is a compelling argument here?
I mean, I think I think the case is there. I can't determine exactly, the decisions that they have made. But I think you look at that building, the fact that nearly half of it's being funded privately, and the absolute need in maintaining a world-class engineering school at Madison. This is important. This goes to long-term economic viability. This goes to long-term economic success, not just of UW-Madison, but across the state of Wisconsin. You look at the impact that kind of facility can have, that kind of number of additional graduates can have, that amount of additional research that can be done that creates new businesses, creates new technologies that drive the world.
Last week on the show here, the president of the UW-Madison Faculty Union was with me via Zoom. He did acknowledge your advocacy for the system, but urged you to do more. Those were his words, do more, particularly in undoing that decision to close UW Platteville, Richland, and then end in-person instruction at 2 others. Is that something you would consider doing?
I mean, I first want to talk about I have been an advocate for the universities of Wisconsin since I started in June of 2022. I believe in our universities. I believe in the power of higher education. And I have had numerous meetings with legislators. I have met with people in the business community, many of whom I knew from my private sector experience, working toward trying to build their and elicit their support for our university system. I just mentioned the 8 universities that I have visited in the last 3 weeks to try to drive that, where we're talking to community leaders, we're talking to business leaders in those areas about the importance of those universities. So we have worked hard to be tireless advocates on behalf of our universities. As it relates to the branch campuses themselves, I think we have to, that reflects what's going on in the marketplace. Our enrollment trends over a 10-year period would indicate that what we're offering at some of those 2-year campuses is not what the market wants. It's not what the prospective student is looking for. We have to look at those locations and say, how do we change? How does our model evolve? As opposed to saying, well, you must do what we have done for the last 30 or 40 or 50 years. We need to be able to evolve to be consumer focused and address what the prospective student wants, because that's what will drive enrollment. So I don't think it's a question of advocacy. I think it is a question about, are we delivering at those campuses what our students are looking for? Because if we do, they will come.
And at this point, it seems that the argument is the system does not believe that the students are there, that at those campuses, that demand is there.
Well, I think you can see the market trends in the aggregate. But we have 10 other campuses, 10 other of the 2-year campuses that we are going to be working with the counties and other key stakeholders and say, what do you need in this area? How can we be helpful? We want to be supportive because our mission is to support the entire state of Wisconsin. So we are going to continue in those conversations to see where those get us. But I think we also have to acknowledge the fact that if the model is not working, we need to figure out how we make the model work so that it can drive the demand that justifies maintaining those programs there. And that may be anything from offering 4-year degree completion on those campuses to graduate programs to reskilling and upskilling and different credentialing that people can have so that they can continue as lifelong learners. There's all kinds of opportunities we can look at those campuses, but we have to be able to acknowledge the fact that if the existing model isn't working, success is not doubling down. I think that's the definition of insanity, continuing to do the same thing and expect a different result. We have to change what we're offering, and that's exactly what we're trying and working toward achieving.
Could you see a world where at those campuses, UW Platteville, Richland, the others, there could be a change in model, and maybe that's UW Platteville, Richland's back open again?
I think probably not. We've made the decision to exit from Richland, so I don't think that's a possibility. I think we're focusing on the 10 campuses that we said, let's figure out how we can best serve those regions. And we want to continue to do that moving forward.
And let's talk enrollment now. UW just announced new enrollment numbers. What's the big picture there?
The big picture is that the numbers, the actual final numbers, the 10-day enrollment numbers, are higher than what our projections were when we released them earlier. So we're pleased. Our enrollment is up about 1% across our universities. This is the first time that we've seen an increase since 2014. I'm really pleased with that. I'm particularly pleased when you look at the freshman enrollment at our universities, taking Madison out, which intentionally managed its freshman class down due to capacity constraints. We're up about 3% in our freshman class on a year-over-year basis. That is telling me that prospective students are looking at the universities of Wisconsin as a great investment in their future, and I'm delighted to hear that.
Are you hoping that could be something you can bring to the Joint Finance Committee, to Republican lawmakers, to point to and say, hey, look, we're viable as a system?
I think absolutely, but I think there's so much more to what we deliver. I'm delighted with the enrollment numbers without question, but when you see, we are educating today 162,000 students at our 13 universities, and the impact that they are going to have on this state is enormous. The impact that the research that is going on every single day on our campuses is going to have on this state is enormous. When you look at extension services, when you look at a variety of services that the universities provide, we want to be great partners with the state of Wisconsin. We think our success and the success of Wisconsin are tied. They really are. And I have seen that in my many years in this state, and I think that continues to be true. I would hope that all of the people in the state of Wisconsin would see the great benefit that our universities provide.
Universities of Wisconsin President Jay Rothman, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.